Week 5 is in the books, and that means it's time to hit those waiver wires to find players that can add value to the back end of your rosters. And quick note, I am going to be referencing rostership percentages in this video, and those are coming from roster data from 1,700 Dynasty leagues on MFL. Basically a 50-50 split of one quarterback in Superflex, all with a minimum of 20-man rosters. So I'm not pulling these guys out of nowhere, but it is possible that some or even all of these guys are already rostered in your leagues. But for the most part, there are hundreds of leagues out there where these guys are on waivers right now. First and foremost, I want to highlight a couple of players that are very highly rostered, but not 100% rostered that I think need to be. And that includes Jaleel McLaughlin, running back for the Broncos, Trey Palmer, wide receiver for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Logan Thomas, tight end for the Commanders, and Hayden Hurst, tight end for the Carolina Panthers. Again, all these guys are rostered in over 95% of Dynasty leagues out there, but not exactly 100%. So double check your waiver wires and immediately add these guys if they are available right now. All right, now for the second week in a row, Mac Jones and the Patriots have just looked horrendous. And for the second week in a row, Bailey Zappe closed out the game for the New England Patriots. Like last week, it was another case of the game being just out of reach for the Patriots, so why continue playing your starting quarterback? But if this trend continues, because Mac Jones just has not looked good at all, eventually Belichick may just make this switch permanent. Zappe needs to be rostered in any Superflex league that has at least a minimum of 25-man rosters, especially if you are the person who has Mac Jones and you're relying on him for bye week fill-ins, as we're coming up on more bye weeks every week. If he gets replaced and you don't have a quarterback, you will regret not having Bailey Zappe on your roster. Now, this one might end up being kind of semi-irrelevant if Saquon Barkley returns next week, but Eric Gray out-touched Matt Breida on Sunday 13-10, though neither of them really did much with those touches, but this could be a signal that the handcuff torch, so to speak, is being passed from Breida to Gray, which I think makes sense because Gray has much more of a three-down skill set than Matt Breida. He's much bigger. I think he's just as good of a pass catcher. He's a much better runner in between the tackles. So if you subscribe to rostering a bunch of handcuffs like I do, Eric Gray has now put his name on the list for the future if Saquon Barkley either continues to miss time with his ankle injury or gets injured again sometime this year or maybe later on down in the future if Barkley is still on the team. But now we get to perhaps the biggest Dynasty waiver ad of the week, and some of you guys may not have even heard of this player before this week, but Emari Demarcado took over workhorse duties for the Arizona Cardinals after James Conner left the game early with a knee injury. And in a little over a half of football, Demarcado rushed for 45 yards and a touchdown on 10 carries, also saw 3 targets, caught 1 pass, and overall just looked pretty good on those touches. Now, he might not be an auto start next week in week 6 if James Conner is out, because they do play the LA Rams, who came in week 5 8th in points allowed to the running back position. Now, that may not matter all too much if Demarcado receives the full James Conner workload, as Conner did rush for 98 yards and a touchdown against the Dallas Cowboys a couple weeks ago, who at that time were first against running backs heading into the week. The one caveat to Demarcado's production this week and his future value as a handcuff is that Keaontay Ingram has missed the last 2 weeks with a neck injury, so if he returns, he could serve as a lead back if James Conner is out, as he has primarily been the Cardinals' RB2 behind Conner all season up until this point. So I would also be looking to add Keaontay Ingram if he is available too. He's much more widely rostered, so Demarcado might be the guy to go after this week. And if both Conner and Ingram are out again in week 6, he becomes a very interesting flex consideration this week against the LA Rams. And then finally, I just want to reiterate that Jonnu Smith has entered every week starter territory for fantasy football this year at the tight end position. And while many people are going to point at Kyle Pitts' breakout week in his stat line, Jonnu Smith still totaled 67 yards on 6 receptions with a 19% target share this week. This is now 4 weeks in a row that Jonnu Smith has seen either 6 or more targets, scored 8 or more PPR points, and this is now back-to-back weeks of 12-plus PPR points for Jonnu Smith. There is no reason at all that he should be on any Dynasty waiver wires, and like I said at the beginning, should be in consideration to be in your lineup every single week unless you already have a top 3 option. But even if you still have Kelsey or Andrews or Hawk or whoever it is that you still have as an every week starter at the tight end position, you should still be picking up Jonnu Smith if he is on waiver wire, because then you can trade him away or you could use him as a bye week fill-in. He needs to be rostered in 100% of Dynasty leagues out there. But hey, if you're watching this video, that probably means that you're a Dynasty fantasy football player. And if you are not subscribed to this channel yet, please do so, as we're going to be dropping Dynasty specific content all season long. And now that we're 5 weeks into this season, you probably have a very good idea of the general direction for a lot of your Dynasty teams, whether you are undefeated or only have one loss, whether you have yet to have a win or only have one win, or you're somewhere in the middle. But regardless of the direction that your team is heading in, I dropped a video sharing my best Dynasty tips and tricks for moves that I would be making for the rest of the season at each one of those competition levels, whether you're fully competing, fully rebuilding, or you're somewhere in the middle. And you can watch that video right up here.